How about this? We talked yesterday on the show. The bats have cooled off in Atlanta last night. Who would have thought? Well, we did there with Jacob deGrom on the mound. Sensational effort, Teddy. Trying for the complete game shutout. Was only touched up a little bit in that ninth inning with 2 solo blasts, but 8 in the third innings, 2 earned runs, 10 Ks. The Braves came into this game, Teddy, winners of 10 of 11. It's amazing when that next day's momentum is a really good starting pitcher. You can shut it down.
Sure did. The Braves didn't hit last night, but the game still went over the total. Of course, what's it now, 9 in a row for Atlanta with the overs. And the one night that their bats are quiet. Remember, on yesterday's show, we went through all the runs that the Braves had scored. They scored 82 runs in their previous, 9 ball games. That's 10 in a row for overs. But last night, deGrom shut them down. Didn't matter. The Mets scored. They had a 10-run lead in that ball game, went over the total by themselves to continue this torrid run of overs with the Braves. Overs beget overs. That certainly happened last night in Atlanta, even though the Braves couldn't hit their way, until the ninth inning. Couldn't hit anything.
We'll see if they bounce back tonight because we do have another game on docket down there in Hotlanta. Let's take a look at another game here, Teddy. And you know when the wind is blowing in or out, a huge difference at Wrigley. Yesterday wasn't howling in, Teddy, only about 5 to 6 miles an hour, but some really good pitching performances yesterday. And Eloy Jimenez, the key in one of the trades between these two teams, drills a 2-run blast in the ninth inning. They take home the big ticket, almost 2-1 at Wrigley last night.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime Nova only gives up 1 earned run, you know that the White Sox are going to be live in that ballgame. Of course, Hamels pitched very well as well. But this White Sox team, they're now within a game of 500. We think of this huge gulf between the Cubs and the White Sox, and that's why the money lines have been in this range in this series. Though it's a little bit different today with Giolito on the mind. We'll talk about that later. But White Sox are within 1 game of 500. They're only 3.5 games worse than the Cubs, and we're into June. There's not that much difference between these two teams, especially with Chicago playing some pretty good. The Chicago White Sox playing some pretty good ball right now.
Yeah, we always think of the White Sox being down. You're right, Teddy. When I was doing a little bit of background information, when you look at the White Sox record, it sort of raises an eyebrow. They got some good young talent on that team. Giolito going to be on the mound, which, again, we'll preview there a little bit later. But certainly some interesting things in the Windy City. Northsiders versus Southsiders. We'll see what continues today. And how about this one? Let's almost play 2. Back in the day, Ted, I remember a famous Cubby, Ernie Banks, said, let's play 2. They almost did last night in Minnesota. What a game this was. One of the better feature games that we would figure, but we didn't know it was going to go 17 innings. How about this, Teddy? 32 hits in this game. The Twins pull it out 4-3. Mookie Betts goes deep in extra innings. Max Kepler matches them in the bottom of the 13th and then drives in the winning run in the 17th inning. Bullpens have been burned, Teddy, but the Twins came out on top.
Yeah, but I got to ask you, how does this happen so often in MLB? Where neither team can score, and you go into extras, and all of a sudden it's the 13th, and somebody scores, and the bottom of the 13th, the other team finds a way to score. And then the game goes longer. It happens, it feels like more often than it should in MLB. Just one of those random things. I don't have stats to show it, but it feels that way. And, of course, a 17-inning marathon still stays under the total. 2 hot lineups coming into this series have been cooled off over the first 2 games. And, of course, we'll have a bunch of tired batters today. We talk about the bullpens being worn down. Let's not forget, the guys who were on the field for 17 innings last night are going to feel it as well in the short turnaround before today's game.
Teddy, us being parents and having kids, we can probably equate to that situation in extra innings. You tell your kid, hey, you got 20 minutes to clean up the room. No surprise, Teddy, they get started when they have 19 minutes on the clock with only 1 minute left to go. Sometimes it feels that way, but an interesting game, 17 innings. We'll see how that continues. It's NFL season, Teddy. How about this? Should we pop the champagne bottles? We're going to review our 32nd team on the season, the final team. Save the best for last? I don't know about that, but it is the Oakland Raiders, certainly to be interesting this year. 2019 team preview today. Our last one, as we said on that betting show, 75-1 to win the Super Bowl, Teddy. 30-1 to win the AFC, and the Raiders 2019 team total set at 6 games. Raiders finished 2018 4-12, 1-5 in the division. Entertainment, as we like to say, is the name of the game. This team will be featured on Hard Knocks. We'll see if the quarterback can have a bounce-back season. You have a lot of moving parts, especially on defense, but the one that we're always looking at here, Teddy, is on offense. You draft a round 1 running back, and then you add Antonio Brown to the offense. Pick up a couple key components on the outside. John Gruden's second year to kick in, 1 year outside of Las Vegas. There's a lot to look for with the Raiders, but the one thing's be true, that's a tough division to be in, and the team total set at 6. But entertainment, Teddy, that's what it's about here, right?
Well, I mean, in theory, that's what sports is supposed to be. Of course, for us, sports is a little bit more than entertainment. In fact, it's a lifestyle choice. But, hey, and kudos to you, Donnie. where we are, what is it, middle of June, and we've gotten all 32 teams done. If you missed any of the team previews, you can always go back and take a look through the archives at sportsbookreview.com. They're all archived there. You can go through Donnie and I's Twitter feed as well, and you can go through whatever show you missed, whatever team we talked about. You can go back and watch that show from that day. But team number 32 is the Oakland Raiders, a team that was bad last year. They were minus 0.9 yards per snap a season ago. What their offense gained versus what their defense allowed. That's bad. Minus 0.5 yards per rush. That's bad. Carr had a QB rating of 93.9, opponents 101. Not a good pass defense. They didn't win the turnover battle last year, -7 in turnovers. And oh, by the way, they had one of the toughest schedules in the NFL last year. So you say, what's different this year? Well, they brought in a bunch of new guys. You want to talk a team that made big moves in the offseason. The Raiders were one. Antonio Brown, obviously. Trent Brown for the offensive line. LaMarcus Joyner at safety. Vontaze Burfict. You bring an incognito for the offensive line. Lots of veterans and pricey veterans. Nevin Lawson coming in to play cornerback. Brandon Marshall coming from Denver to play outside linebacker. Ryan Grant. Literally, this team went nuts in free agency because they had a ton of money, a ton of cap money to spend. Bringing in a bunch of new veterans for a team that is in their last year in Oakland and let's just say had more than their share of issues last year, it can go one of two ways. Either things break right for Oakland or things get ugly. When we start to look at their schedule, we start to think it might be more of the latter rather than the former. All right. Last year, one of the toughest in the NFL. This year, again, one of the toughest in the NFL, despite the fact they finished in last place. All right. They lose a home game to the Bears. Game is in London now. Advantage Chicago. Shorter trip, and that's a home game that Oakland doesn't get. Only 7 home games. In fact, they don't have a single home game between September 15th, that's week 2 against Kansas City, and November 3rd, week 9. That's a long stretch without playing a home game. They have 6 early start road games. They're all back-to-backs, weeks 3 and 4, 7 and 8, 12 and 13. And look at the first 4, at Minnie, at Indy, at Green Bay, at Houston. You can mark them down now, L. No, I'm not bullish on the Raiders this year. They're lined at 6 wins for a reason, despite their talent influx in the offseason.
And by the way, just because me and Teddy finished up all 32 teams here, that doesn't mean we're going to go away in the NFL. Teddy scheduled Super Bowl futures videos, an AFC preview, and an NFC preview. Keeping up never stops here on That Betting Show. We'll get you ready for week 1 in the NFL throughout the summer.